Recently, the SEC, or Securities and Exchange Commission, approved 11 Bitcoin Spot ETFs to trade at major financial institutions like BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK, and many more. Today, I want to cover my top 3 reasons why this is such a big deal, not only for Bitcoin's price, but also its global adoption. Think about this. The US government just approved people to easily purchase Bitcoin exposure through the largest financial institutions in the world. This means it isn't getting banned. And more importantly, the largest, most powerful government in the world just gave legitimacy to Bitcoin as an asset. It is not a scam. And now, if you aren't sure what an ETF is, just check out the card I have linked above. Many people were waiting for this event before buying either actual Bitcoin or the new ETFs. They wanted to be absolutely sure the government wasn't going to try and ban Bitcoin in the US. With this green light, billions or even trillions of new dollars will flow into the asset class in the coming years. The US dominates the capital investment markets and exerts a large amount of influence over financial markets worldwide. The fact the US has put its stamp of approval on Bitcoin means global adoption and therefore value should accelerate. With the approval of an ETF, many people will now have access to purchasing Bitcoin exposure through their retirement accounts. The ETF is just a fund that holds Bitcoin and you purchase shares in that fund. This gives many people the chance to add this Bitcoin exposure to their portfolio in things like normal brokerage accounts or an IRA or Roth IRA. The Bitcoin ETF will now be offered in many 401k plans, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, and other special forms of accounts like pension funds. Most of the middle class has a large portion of their money in these accounts. And even if they decide to allocate a few percent of their net worth into Bitcoin, for diversification, it'll lead to massive increases in price. You will now be able to buy Bitcoin exposure with the simple click of a button in the accounts you're already familiar with. My last reason is the elimination of unit bias. It is well known that people like lower prices of things and also to own whole number shares of them instead of fractions. You could have one Bitcoin be $50,000 or one share of an ETF be $50 and just represent 1/1000th of a Bitcoin. Even though you could just as easily buy $50 worth of Bitcoin, the $50,000 number makes many people think they can't afford it. Instead of having 0.001 Bitcoin, you could have one whole share of the ETF. This could be a fairly big driver of increased adoption, where someone now reasonably puts $50 a paycheck into it so they can see their number of shares increase by whole numbers. Psychological barriers are real, and this eliminates a big one for many people. Now, there are negatives to the ETF getting passed, which will be covered in next Monday's video. Bitcoin is a revolutionary technology, and I always recommend buying the real thing and learning how to store that properly over something like the ETF. Now, the ETF will increase adoption, but the real innovation is being able to truly own your money. Check out the video on the end screen for a foundational understanding on money and some of the links linked below in the description to more videos.